Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Iowa Pagan News on the Prairie Land Radio Network. This is Pagan Artist Spotlight. And this afternoon, I'm joined once again by my co host, Christy Mann,
Hey guys.
and also our special guest, Sencha Skene, former member of the Elder Tribe Band. And he is also the chief druid of the Black Mountain Druid Order. Welcome.
Hi, all.
Appreciate you
Thank
stopping
you.
in.
Sure.
Okay, so now I know that you started out from the Appalachia area, and then you moved
Hmm.
to Washington State back a couple of years ago. So,
Yes.
and at that time when you were over in the Appalachia area, you had started the band, the Elder Tribe Band. Uh,
Hmm.
so, have you always had a music background?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I come from one of those old Scottish families. My grandfather was a farmer, and he had a farm in Abbeville County in South Carolina. And from the time I could remember being old enough to walk, they would all sit on the porch on Saturday nights and play guitar, play mandolin, drums, whatever they had handy. And so I kind of grew up around it. I got my first guitar myself in 1974, I think it was, and started playing then and been playing ever since. And then I've learned other instruments along the way. So I grew up in a musical family and always been around music in some way.
Very nice. Now, you're also a singer-songwriter as well.
Yes, I've been doing that. I actually wrote my first song, I think, about 1972. I was 12 years old, and I can't even remember the name of the show. The Partridge Family. Yeah, the Partridge Family. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Oh, yeah.
I was a big fan of that, and so I said, I bet I could write a song. So I wrote a song when I was 12 years old, and I still have a copy of it around here somewhere. Not that I would ever tell anybody in public what it actually, what the words actually were, or anything like that. But then during high school, I started playing in a band, and we were like half and half covers and half originals. And part of the reason for the originals is we hadn't developed our skills well enough to do a lot of covers at the time. I was in high
Mhm.
school in the 70s, and so back then we had bands like Kansas and Yes and Styx and all these the Heart, all these bands that were playing all these very complicated chord patterns and progressions and everything. So a little more difficult to do cover tunes than the stuff we got now, which is 3 and 4 chords. So we did a lot of originals just because we weren't skilled enough to be able to do covers by Yes or covers by Kansas, things like that. And that kind of led into the songwriting aspect a little more full time.
Nice.
Excellent. So now, okay, so let's see. What got you started with the druidry side?
Druidry. Well, the song I think we're going to play the video a little later on. Kind of tells a little bit of that story. When I was a child, like I said, I grew up on a farm and came from an old Southern Baptist family. My great grandfather actually has a hymn that he wrote in the Southern Baptist hymnal. His name was Bruce Hall, for all you people that want to go look that up. But I never felt at home in the church, but I always spent a lot of time out in the woods. And I had a neighbor who was half Cherokee, and he was the same age that I was. And so he would always tell me about the Cherokee mythologies and all of that. So that was my first introduction to nature-based forms of spirituality. And then my family and I moved to Pensacola, Florida, right after I graduated high school in 1978. And I found something called the Emerald Coast Grove Druid Order at the time, or Druid. I think they were just calling themselves a Grove at the time. And I'd never heard of anything like that. And it was very similar to the things that I had learned from my Cherokee friend, but it was with the ancestry that I had, Scottish and Irish and that sort of thing. So it didn't feel so much like cultural appropriation because I was honoring my own ancestors by studying
Hmm.
the history and the mythology and that sort of thing of my own people. So that was a little. So I guess that would have been 78. Yeah, I was 18, 19, and so I've been on the Druid path ever since. Back then, there weren't any things like the ADF or anything like that. I think OBOD and the RDNA were still were around in 78, but prior to that, all these other orders weren't. And for those of you who don't know, RDNA is Reformed Druids of North America, and ADF. I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try. It's Gaelic. It's Andreach Fain, I believe is how it's pronounced, and that's just Irish Gaelic for our own Druidry, and that was started by Isaac Bonowitz in the 80s,
Oh,
I think it
okay.
was. So it wasn't even around back then. But
Hmm.
OBOD
Yep.
is the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids from England, and that's been around since at least the 70s by Ross Nichols and people along those lines. And it's a direct descendant of the Druid Reformation. Now, I'm getting into a lot of history stuff that's probably going to have people confused, but there's Druidry. If you look at the history of Druidry, it's kind of like looking at a plate of spaghetti. There's all these connections and twists and turns and everything, so it can get kind of
Hmm.
complicated. So hopefully, I'm not confusing people too much. But the short answer to the question is, I've been on the path of Druidry since about 1978.
Nice. Well, I've actually heard of Obod myself,
Yeah. Okay.
and I know of Isaac, so I'm
Yeah.
familiar with him.
Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't
Obad.
familiar, but I'm not confused, so you don't have to worry
Okay.
about
All
that.
right. Good. Good. Thanks. Obad is actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave the Bard or Dolph the Bard.
Yep. Oh
He
yeah.
is a very active member of Obad. He's a musician as well. And he's
Yep.
been on when I used to have a podcast. He was on my podcast back in the day. But he's a very active member of Obad.
Excellent. And let's see. I wonder. Uh, well, because Mama Gina, she earned the nickname Nine Toes the Bard.
Yeah, yeah. You know the story about that?
Yeah, I do. I do. She's a good friend
Okay,
of mine.
yeah, yeah. Friend of mine as well. I'm surprised we haven't run into each other before because we known each other for probably about 10 years now, I guess. So yeah, haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
jam with her yet. The cosmic forces have not lined up to where we can actually. We've been in the same place a lot of times with guitars, but we've never sat down and actually played together. I'm looking forward to that
Uh,
when and if it ever happens. But yeah,
yeah. Right now, she is laid up because she had a accident here just a couple weeks ago where uh, she broken her arm. She
yeah,
broke her
yeah.
left
I heard
arm.
about that.
So
Yeah,
she's gonna be laid up for a little while, but I'm pretty sure that she's gonna wind up getting back into the swing of things here.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
quickly. Yeah.
yeah. I know she lives in Florida, but we when we lived in South
Mhm.
Carolina, there was a little bar, an Irish pub in Anderson, South Carolina, and she used to play there a lot, and we'd go there and enjoy her songs.
Nice. For those of you who are tuning in on Facebook, you can click on the live link, uh, or else you can just post comments, and that will come over into StreamYard where we are at, and you can participate in the chat with us. So you can post questions and post comments so that you can be a part of the interview this afternoon. So let's see. I think I've taken a look at most all your videos that you've got on your
Mhm.
YouTube. Is I know that I think Chrissy, if you want to go ahead and post the links up for the YouTube and also for we've also got one.
Bandcamp.
Yep. We've
Yeah,
also got your main website up here, senchaskene.com, where people can go and see your videos and music.
yeah,
And then plus, you definitely want to check out. Let's see which one. Oh yeah. you definitely want to check out his Bandcamp because that's where you can go to download his music, and you can all his uh, any little bit that you give to each and every artist on Bandcamp that goes directly to the artist to help them keep creating the music that they love doing. And let's see what else we got
Yeah.
here. Oh, yeah, that's also, um, yep, that's the main album, Winter of the Wheel. Now that's your latest one, right?
The latest one is the Shadow Mountain Fae. Winter of the Wheel
Okay.
was, I believe that was the first one. Well, I did a couple of flute albums as well, and I get a little fuzzy on the dates as to which ones. I also play the Native American flute, so I have three Native American flute albums out. But Winter of the Wheel was the first one solo album that I did. So I've done some other albums with bands. We mentioned Elder Tribe earlier. But the Winter of the Wheel was my first album that I did by myself.
Oh, okay. Very good. Uh, I know that I've listened to that one at least a couple times, and the one thing that I've always loved about,
Mm.
especially bardic music, is that every piece of music tells a story,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's what really resonates the most with me these days. With when you put a lot of your time and energy into and your emotions into a piece of music, uh, that's what is going to hit home with a lot of people.
yeah. And that the Winter of the Wheel. I don't know if you can tell by looking at my video, but I'm a little on the old side there. And the story of the Winter of the Wheel album was I was just about to turn 60. There was actually a couple of years before I was about to turn 60, and just it was kind of an album reflecting back on a lifetime as a pagan and as a musician. And the
Hmm.
title cut, Winter of the Wheel, is just about all the elders that have led me on the path. And I fulfilled an ambition a few years ago and got to meet Selena Fox at a local Pagan Pride Day event. And there's a in the chorus of that song when it's talking about Oberon and Isaac, Selena and Margot. And it's Oberon Zell.
Hmm.
Got to meet him as well. Selena Fox, and Oberon Isaac, Selena and Margot. I have to go through the chorus here. Margot
Yep.
Adler. She wrote a book called Drawing Down the Moon, and that was
Yep.
the one of the first books I ever read that kind of legitimized the path for me. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times when you set out on the pagan path, people will say things to you. Oh, you're just pretending to make your parents mad or something like that. That the Drawing Down the Moon. Margot Adler was actually a journalist with National Public Radio, and she brought a journalist perspective to that book and did a very thorough analysis of what it was like to be a pagan in the late 70s and early 80s, and taking it as a legitimate alternative religious form of expression. And so
Mhm.
that was one of my first inklings of, hey, this is okay to do this. I'm not going to be out of the water here by doing this. So that was mentioning her in the chorus was my tribute to her. And so that whole song is just about being older and what's the future of paganism and where have we been, that sort of thing, looking forward.
Right.
And that sort of a story. It's more autobiographical, I guess you could say.
Hmm. Nice. I was just saying, is you happen to mention Oberon, and he's going
Hmm.
to be on the show tomorrow with us.
Oh, great. Tell him Shenka said hi. I don't know that he'll
Will
remember me
do.
or not. It was like 5 years ago, but yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I
He,
bet you he'll remember.
yeah, yeah. He did
He.
the water ritual for us there, so it was a very enjoyable experience.
Cool. Just think is, well, now you're up in well. He's up in your neck of the woods, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so surprising that
No,
you two
I'm
haven't.
yeah. That's we moved here 2 years ago, and then that was right in the middle of the pandemic. So we have seen our backyard and Mount Rainier. That's about it. We do get out on some of the hiking trails because you can get out on the hiking trails without having you can social distance on a hiking trail outdoors, but
Hmm.
haven't gotten out to see a lot of the sites yet. But we're looking forward to that. Looks like the mandates and everything are going away later this month, so we'll be able to get out and start exploring a little more. But yeah, I was excited to find that I'm a little closer to Oberon than I was in the past. Uh, well, I actually met him in Greenville, South Carolina, so that's quite a distance away from where he is now, or where I am
Hmm.
now, I guess.
Oh, that's true. Christy, do you have any questions for him?
I have a curiosity question.
Sure.
You're mentioning being older.
Uh-huh.
Was there a point, and let's if you're willing to dive into that, was there a
Sure.
point where when you were younger you didn't think you would live to see where you are and were like, what do I do now?
I grew up in the '70s. Like I said, I was class of '78, and there was a saying back then, live fast, die hard, leave a good looking corpse, so to speak. I didn't really expect to
Right.
live past 30. So part of that Winter of the Wheel album was, wow, I made it this far. Wow. And somewhere along the age of 50, I guess, that's the in Druidry we call it saging for males and croning for females. I don't know, other traditions might have different names for it, but around 50 or so, people start treating you like you might know what you're talking about. So
Hmm.
that was kind of a wake up call for me, and somewhere around in that time, just everything in my life kind of came together. I had a lot of great things happen to me. And so I've always told people that I tell my wife this all the time, and I don't mean it in a morbid way, but I always tell her, if I died tomorrow, I've had a great life. We've been together for 20 years, and I'm really grateful that you've been in my life, and we've had everything that I could possibly want. I've had. So, I've never thought of it in terms of, well, I need to squeeze out 2 more years and make it till I'm 65. It's like, if I
Yeah.
walk out the door and get hit by a bus tomorrow, I've had a good life. I'm satisfied. And I always try to keep that perspective because it, um, it helps you to have an attitude of what I call an attitude of gratitude. It helps you to
Hmm.
be grateful for every day you're given. And so that's the attitude I try to keep. But yeah, as far as I wasn't sure I was going to make it this far. Some of the things that I've done and put myself through and put other people through, I'm surprised that I did make it this far. So yeah,
I think we all have that. That was
Hmm.
a turning point for me. I didn't see 40 in my earlier years. So when 40 came and I'd published a book and I'd, had my kids and all of the things that I had accomplished, I was like, what now? And now
yeah,
things
yeah,
are really starting to come together and big things are happening. And that attitude of gratitude definitely comes with that because you have that sense of, well, if I'm gone tomorrow, I've lived a satisfactory life, but what about tomorrow?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of that too. Is something about right around the age of 50, which was 12 years ago. I'm 62, so that was 12 years ago for me. Right around that age, you start realizing you're not going to live forever, and then you get to this. I always wanted to do this. This is on my bucket list. That's on my bucket list. Yada yada. I've got this big long list of stuff on my bucket list. And about 50, you say, "Well, I guess I better quit farting around and get busy. I've got to get this done."
Yeah.
And it was a couple of years after that I released the album and started, writing pagan books. I make my living as an author for therapy, but I also started writing the pagan books right after I turned 50. And so there's a lot of projects that I had on my bucket list that I wanted to get done, and I've started paying attention to those now. So yeah, it does kind of wake you up.
You
I
can find
bet.
those books on your website, yes?
Yes, and it's also Elder Grove Media is the publishing company. So um, if
Nice.
anybody is interested, but it's also on my website. Yeah.
Now, are you still also writing any more music right now?
Yeah. The next album, I just released the Shadow Mountain Fae album, and of course, you always have a few songs left over that weren't quite good enough to make it onto the album, but maybe if I fiddle around with it a little more or play with this idea a little differently, sometimes you have to kind of put it on the back burner and let it simmer for a while. So I've got a few
Mm.
of those, and then I've also got some other ideas for the next album. It usually takes about 2 years to release an album, so the next one probably won't be until about 2024. But I've got the title. It's going to be called Pronounced Shenka because uh, my name is spelled Sencha, but it's the Gallic is pronounced Shenka, and a
Oh.
lot of times people think it means Japanese tea, but the Shenka actually comes from it's the Shinichi, which is the Gallic word for storyteller or lore keeper, the person
Hmm.
that tells the stories, the bard that sings the songs, the history of the people, that sort of thing. So tentatively, right now, the next one's going to be called Pronounced Shenka, but we'll wait and see. Um, the one I just finished up, I have to tell you the story about that, if you don't mind. Um,
Sure, go ahead.
we lived in South Carolina, right on the border. Say that, I mean, like right on the border, 5 minutes, and we're in North Carolina. So the house was actually in South Carolina, but we spent most of our time in North Carolina. So when people ask me, I tell them I'm from the Carolinas. It's just to simplify things.
Oh yeah.
But there was a mountain 5 minutes from the house called Bald Rock. And then that's like 20 minutes from Caesar's Head. If you're familiar with
Hmm.
that area,
Okay.
and that's all the Appalachians. And I used to go up there and sit out on the mountain and play the flute, play the guitar. The acoustics out there were great because this big giant granite mountain and all these echoes that you get from the mountains. And I'd sit there and talk to the fairies and write songs. And so when we decided to pack up and move to Washington State, I was kind of concerned about am I going to be able to find that same energy here. So we started hiking and exploring the Cascades, which is the mountain range closest to us, and Mount Rainier, which is words cannot describe Mount Rainier. It's 14,000 feet tall. It's a volcano, and it just towers over the landscape. I mean, it looks like something from another world if you've never seen it.
Hmm.
When we were flying here, we flew right over the mountain, and I was amazed at how big it was from the airplane. And we were flying at 30,000 feet. So when I got home, I looked up how tall is Mount Rainier on the internet. 14,000 feet. So it was halfway to the airplane from the ground. So that gives you an idea of how big this mountain is. So going there and exploring those hiking trails and taking a guitar or a flute or something along those lines and communing with the fairy energy there was kind of what led to this album because I'm leaving all the Appalachian Fae behind. What am I going to find here? And I found the spirits of place and the fairy energy or the Fae energy or whatever you might want to call it is
Hmm.
here just as well. It's a little bit
Oh yeah.
darker and a little bit older because this old growth forest here, they didn't clear cut everything. There's trees that are bigger than my house out there in the woods. So the energy is a lot different. It's a little darker and a little more
Right.
mysterious. And that's kind of where this album came from. And there's a couple of songs on there. The Shadow Mountain Fae. That's about that energy that I experienced there. So
Excellent. Okay, we're going to go ahead and play the video.
okay,
And then right after that, we're going to take a commercial break for about 2 minutes, and then we'll be back in with the interview. So stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. Let's watch this video.
All right, great. I never felt the spirit in temples made by men, but the forest called to me as a child. I tried to understand it, to follow where you led, but I only felt at home there in the wild. For a long time I pretended to go where you had gone, to try to make you happy with your choice. But I soon grew tired of make-believe when the goddess called to me. There in the woods I found her voice. You have your own path, but I went another way. The door is open from my side. The choice is yours. We can agree to disagree. You don't have to run and hide. Hate the sin but love the sinner. That's what I've heard you say, to justify the closing of your doors. But when it comes to hating, this is what you need to know. The hating is your God's job, not yours. I know our paths are different, and we both have different ways, but the pathway doesn't matter in the end. You can set aside your judgments. I'll try to do the same, because I know we both could use a friend. You have your own path, but I went another way. The door is open from my side. The choice is yours. We can agree to disagree. You don't have to run and hide. In your one God, and I find wisdom in them all. In the end, I think we both shall seek the light. You chose to shut me out because you think that I'm wrong, but self-righteousness just doesn't make you right. You turned your back on me because I went another way. Your decision's your loss and not mine. I'll be waiting patiently if you ever change your mind. In the meantime, me and mine are doing fine. You have your own path, but I went another way. The door is open from my side. The choice is yours. We can agree to disagree. You don't have to run and hide. You have your own path, but I went another way. The door is open from my side. You don't have to run and hide. You don't have to run and hide.
That was a fantastic video,
That was awesome.
and
Thanks.
I think we both cracked up at one point with, yeah, the guys with the pink horses. Like, wait
Oh
a
yeah,
minute.
yeah.
That was
That's from
great.
the Washington State Renaissance Midsummer Renaissance Fair that we went our first time last summer. So that was me and my folks are doing fine. We're riding pink unicorns.
That was great. That was great. And it brought back just watching the video. I mean, I'd listened to the songs, but just watching the video brought back memories. I was a big attender of the Arizona Renaissance Festival back in Phoenix when I lived out there.
Yeah.
And so those images and the things and the fairy, the little fairy, I believe I'll have to dig for it and find it. But the fairy that was bending down, hugging the little kid, I
Yeah.
have a picture of my daughter in 2003 or 2004. She was 6. And that same fairy, I swear it was the same fairy that went and hugged.
That's Twig the Fairy, by the way. That was at the Carolina Renaissance Fair in Charlotte. And Twig the Fairy was there. So she was giving out free hugs. She's great. If you've never seen her, she's
just
I'd love to give her a shout
the
out.
memories that it brought back were tremendous. So thank you for that.
And I also want to welcome
glad,
Gypsy Healer to the show. She's tuning in this afternoon. She's down in California. I definitely want to welcome her in this afternoon. She said that she absolutely loved the video. And I got to
Great. I'm
admit,
glad you enjoyed it. Now, I should tell you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say is,
Yeah.
I got to admit the scenery that you had in the video from that area is just absolutely beautiful. That the trail that people were walking on is like, yeah, that's an area that I'm going to need to explore one of these days.
That particular shot was Chipsoo Lake, and that is almost to the top of Mount Rainier. So that's about 12,000 feet in the air. So we were walking real slow because there was not any oxygen up there. But some of the scenes are also from the Appalachians. That was kind of the idea with the video, is to blend it all together. Just the old experience of the Fae and the new experience of the Fae, from the Appalachians to the Cascades. And that song was originally on the Winter of the Wheel album. It was just a solo me and guitar. And when I re-released it on this album, it felt like it needed a little more. So I put the extra instruments into it to give it that little extra that I felt like it needed. Hopefully it improved it instead of screwing it up.
It made it amazing.
The music was beautiful. I absolutely loved it.
Thanks.
And I got to admit that I think I'm going to have to dig a little bit deeper into learning more about Druidry.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of overlap between Druidry and some of the other pagan practices, but there's still enough different that it kind of stands out on its own. We're a little bit different with our order. We've been around. The order has been around since '96, I believe, and like I said, when I started Druidry in '78, there was not any. A lot of the organizations that are here now weren't there then, so we had to kind of piece it together. And we pieced it together based on the old Celtic medieval texts that were like the Book of the Takings of Ireland, the Calorate of Cooley, all these old medieval texts that talk about the history of the Celtic people. And we just kind of, these were written by Christian monks, so we had to go back and kind of peel the Christianity off of it and see what was underneath to see if we could kind of get an idea of, okay, this is what it would be like to be a druid in this path. And so we pieced it together based on that. And then when these other organizations started popping up, they started finding very similar things. So it's kind of interesting to me that all these people working independently kind of arrived at the same spot. And so that's tells me that there's some magic afoot there somewhere.
Cool. Okay, now I got a couple of announcements I'm going to get to here real quick as we're going to take time out to talk about a couple of our good friends down at Sister Moon Apothecary. That is Misty and Lee.
Misty and Lee.
They now have their physical store in place. So
It's beautiful.
I'm very happy to let you people know that you can find them on Facebook at Sister Moon Apothecary and more. And you'll be able to get a virtual tour of the store. Uh, they also do Tarot Tuesdays during the evenings with Beverly Oberling, and you can discover a lot of great stuff that they've got there for you at the store. Plus, you can also order online. They'll be more than happy to send stuff to you as well if you can't make it down there. Then, wanted to let you also wanted to tell you about BU Apothecary in Oquawka, Illinois, which is pretty much just right across the river from Iowa. And you can catch them on Facebook at BU Apothecary, and they've got other links that you can explore with. Uh, Now their shop, uh, they've got theirs open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 1 to 5, and also or book a personal shopping experience outside of those hours as well. So all you have to do is get in contact with them, and if you can't get into their store on those 3 days, you can set something up with them, uh, and they'll be more than happy to take care of you. So be sure to take a look at BU Apothecary in Oquawka, Illinois. All right, now back on to what we were talking about here. Looks like we got Patty. Or excuse me, Patsy. She's in this afternoon. So I want to say good afternoon. And oh, you got. She said Mardi Gras rolling here. Now wait a minute. It's not Mardi Gras time yet. Um,
March
or is it?
1st.
Oh, it is. Oops.
March
Okay.
1st. Happy March 1st, everyone.
Yep. So
I still
yeah.
remember the formula from living on the Gulf Coast. The first full moon after the first Sunday after the vernal equinox, I think is what it was. I lived on the Gulf Coast for 15 years, and so we always had to do the alchemy to figure out when Mardi Gras was supposed to be.
Is that not
Got
the
to plan
most
your
beautiful
parties.
beach you've ever seen?
Oh yeah, definitely. My brother-in-law was a Coast Guard helicopter pilot before he retired,
Mm.
and he had pictures of the Gulf of Mexico, and there were boats floating on the water, and the water is so clear that you could see the shadow a mile below of the boat on the ocean floor. It's just like bathwater. It's amazing.
I lived on the coast for about 3 years. Not too long ago, I actually drove Uber through Destin, and
Yeah. Okay.
oh man, we used to go there at night, sit on the beach, and watch the stars, and just listen to the waves.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I like the
That.
mountains. I like the mountains, but nothing beats that wide open nothingness of the ocean.
Yeah. We when I was telling you about how I first got into druidry, there's a place in Pensacola called Scenic Highway, and
Hmm.
back then there was something called the
Mhm.
Bluffs, and now they've plowed it all down and made it all even and everything. But back then it was wild, granite and well, not granite, but sandstone and all that, and you'd had to walk down the mountain or climb down the mountain and get to the beach there, and that's where we would meet out in the woods. There's woods and then railroad tracks and then beach, and we'd go out there to the beach and build a fire. And like you said, there you couldn't see any of the lights at the time, and it was just the Milky Way in the ocean, and it would reflect off the water, and you'd feel like you were floating in space or something. And when the
Just
moon rose on the ocean, it was magical. Yeah,
absolutely. I want to go back.
yeah. That particular beach is now underwater. For the climate change and everything now, that the beach no longer exists. It ends right there at the railroad tracks. So, yeah. unfortunately.
Patsy said that, we began a new lore. The city is revived and the good times are rolling. So I'm glad to see that. I'm very glad to see that New Orleans is back into full swing again.
Yeah, spent many weekends in New Orleans in the 80s. I wish I could remember more of them, but it was definitely some fun.
Yeah, or I guess the proper pronunciation is called Nolans.
Nolans.
Hmm.
Not y'all, not yeah, New Orleans. Yeah. Definitely.
Well,
And
don't get them Louisianans started on
No,
mispronouncing the names of their
no.
towns, streets, or
yeah.
otherwise.
I'm
Whew.
having enough trouble moving to Washington from South Carolina, and there's a town here. It's Puyallup, and a good old Southern boy. I looked at it and thought, "Oh, that's pull y'all up," and it's pronounced Puyallup. Everybody
We
looked at
have
me
one here
funny.
in Utah,
Yeah,
Tooele. Everybody calls it
yeah,
Thule,
yeah,
and the Utahns are like, no, it's Tooele. It's everywhere. It's great.
yeah.
Cool, excellent. Let's see now. Uh, well, seeing how the mandates can be lifted and all, now you said that you're going to try to. You've already started to get a couple of bookings. Now, are you also
Yeah.
putting together another band up there?
We're looking into it. My wife and I don't know if you've seen how many pictures you've seen on the thing there, but my wife is also a musician. I'm retired. She's still working, so she sometimes can appear with me and sometimes not. But we're also talking about the possibility of scouting around some of the local musicians. We have a couple of possible folks that we're going to get together with. The mandate is supposed to be lifting, I think, March 11th, and then we've been kind of holding off until that. If that happens, then we'll be putting the band together. If we can't do that, then I always do the Dave the Bard thing and just show up by myself with a guitar and my flutes and various other instruments. But there's also the possibility of putting another band together. And we were already starting to make some contacts. I'd rather not say, what they
Mhm.
are until they're actually firmed up.
Right,
But we've talked
right.
with some of the pagan pride groups here and some of the local pagan organizations about possible events to be playing. And it's learning the whole thing all over again. Growing up on the East Coast and knowing all the East Coast organizations and all the big events there, it's totally different on this side of the Mississippi. So I'm having to learn the culture all over again and make all the contacts. And about the people, the musicians here have been very helpful with that. And also the pagan community has been very helpful with that, pointing me in the right directions and let me know which one of those gigs you want to play and which ones you might want to just save for other people, that sort of thing. So,
Right.
yeah, we're hopefully going to be making an announcement sometime in June about what the schedule will be if we do have those dates firmed up and everything. But that will be on the website, the Sencha Skene website.
Shoot messages to us as well so we can get it out on the airwaves on our stuff. We'll do that.
Sure will. Yeah, great. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, no, there's also another band that's up there as well, Chronolus.
Yeah. I've been listening to them for quite a while, and I haven't met any of them yet, but hopefully one day.
Well, you'll definitely have to get together with those guys. They're terrific band, a terrific group of people, and uh, I have a feeling that they would probably love to collaborate with you.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm always up for collaborating with folks. One of my favorite bands, being from the Carolinas, was a band called. They pronounce it Tuatha. The actual
Hmm.
pronunciation is
Pasadena.
Tuatha. Is how you say it in Gaelic, but they pronounce it
Mm.
Tuatha just because that's how everybody calls them.
Right.
uh,
Yep.
but they're very big on collaboration, and they're one of my favorite folks. They've collaborated with just about everybody. As a matter of fact, they collaborated with all these great pagan artists on the Green album.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Oh
but
yes. Oh yes. Yeah,
yeah.
because those guys are like family to me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Danny
And
and
it's
I go way
becoming that
back.
way with me. We did a show with them not too long ago, and yeah, things are
Yeah,
growing. So
yeah, yeah. My wife used to manage the Ren Fair in Greenville, and so Danny and the whole gang, we got to be pretty good friends over the years.
Cool. Oh, Patsy is saying to Patty that you're welcome to come. Because
Okay, sounds
she
great.
does, yeah, she was talking to Patricia because she's, even though she's over in Texas, she's not too far from New Orleans. So,
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
mhm.
The thing I love
look
Now,
at
about
that, connecting people on the show.
yeah,
That's what it's about.
now,
yeah.
when you're, if you do reform a band, are you going to keep it the same name that you had, or?
That I try to run things democratically. So if the group wants to do that, sure. If not, we'll do something else. Just depends on what they feel like doing. So that the Elder Tribe band, the reason we had that name was because the youngest person in the band, other than the lead guitarist, was 56, I think, at the time. The lead guitarist was the rhythm guitarist's son, and he was in his 20s. He was the youngest member of the band, so kudos to him for putting up with all the old farts in the band.
All the stories
um,
he heard and gets to tell now, though.
yeah, 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 exactly. And at that time, we were living in we called it the Mountain House. It was in the middle of the next closest thing to our backyard, besides the state park for the mountain, was Table Rock State Park was our backyard, and then next after that was DuPont State Forest, and so basically we were out in the middle of nowhere, and that's where we used to have band practice. And so the band members that smoked would step out on the back porch and look for bears before they before they lit up a cigarette, because there were bears known to frequent the place. They would come and listen to the music. I don't know if they were like attracted to the music or what, but there would be neighbors that would hear the music and that you'd never met before, and they would just drive up the mountain. Oh, we were just looking for the party. We heard all the music, and it's not a party; it's just band practice. And then they would sit out on the porch and listen in the dark and try not to get eaten by bears, that sort of thing.
Cool. Now, Ed made a comment. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong one. Yeah, Ed made a comment earlier, said that a lot of the 80s we forgot because of the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Like
We're
I
not
said,
going to
so
talk about that. We're not going to talk about the truth of that statement. Thank you, Ed.
yeah, that's like I graduated in '78, and the saying then was, "If you remember the '70s, you weren't there." Yeah,
Yep. He said that's how Celtic Dreams was too. His band that he had. Uh, he
mm,
had 50 plus with 50 plus him with 18 to 20 something year old bandmates.
yeah, yeah. That's that's one of the things that I see that seems to be more common with pagan folks or pagan bands, pagan musicians. If you go see a regular rock and roll band, all the members are going to be about the same age, the 20s or 30s or something like that. With a lot of the
Mhm.
pagan bands, you see people like me in their 60s is right there with 20-year-olds and all that. So it seems to be more open to I don't know what would you call diverse aging of the people. I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but more people of different ages participating in the same group. Some of my favorite bands are like that, and I think that's great that ageism doesn't creep into the pagan community.
It's one of the things that I love about it. You can have a solid mix, and it's the energy that brings us together, not the politics, not the ways of thinking, not that there's not anything that really divides, and so you have a good mix of age, race, creed, orientation, that's all
Yeah.
mixing together. It's a beautiful thing about the community. It really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's, oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's not in the age, but it's in the musicianship which matters.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just if you can play together. And sometimes it's not even, now you have to have a certain level of skill. You have to have a certain level of musical skill to be able to, play in a band.
Right.
But you don't have to be the world's greatest guitarist or the world's greatest drummer or anything like that to get together with people that you jive with, because
Mm.
if you have a band full of people who really get along together, then they're going to lift up the weaker musicians. And the perfect example I can think of this, and I'm going to show my age here, but there was a band called Rush. It was three dudes, and they
Yeah.
always challenged each other to be better, and they lifted each other up. And it's more about the connection, that synergy that happens, than it is about, well, I'm the greatest guitar player in the world, or I can't play three chords, that kind of thing, because you will lift each other up as that energy starts happening. And that's where the magic is for me. That's where the magic starts happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's about like what Brian was talking about when we had him on the show that he was at. I can't remember where he said he was at, but he was there with some other well-known guitarists, and they each had a chance to play three of their top songs. And the visual that came across with that was basically one guitarist playing one of his top songs, looking over at the other one and say, "Okay, top that one." Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it's-
Or another one, there
Round
was a
robin.
documentary. Yeah. Oh, there was a documentary called, I forgot the name of it, but it was about the making of the Traveling Wilburys album. And they just got together, and these are like the major heavy hitters of the rock and roll world, and they all just got together at a friend's house over the weekend and recorded this album. One of them would just start playing, and the other one would say, "Hey, I know what would go great here," and then you would fill in something, and it all just came together in the space of like just one weekend. They wrote this, million selling album, and that's what happens when that energy is flowing like that.
Yeah.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the comment that Ed made that he said, "When I say musicianship, he means the fact that we as musicians have a synergy."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that again, that's where that magic happens. There was a song that I was working on that almost made it on this album that didn't quite make it. And I'm going to need to brush it up a little bit more. But it was called "The Magic Is the Music," and the idea here is that it's kind of like the Wizards competition. Everybody's singing around. What's your greatest power? Well, I have divination, or I have this, or I have that. What's your magic power? And I started thinking about that on those terms. It's like, well, I guess my music, if I have any magic, is what the because the most magical experiences I've ever had in my life had music involved in one way or the other, whether it's just sitting around the campfire with a drum and a guitar and just having other people join in. Some of the best jam sessions or concerts or whatever you want to call it I've ever been to in my life involved just sitting around a campfire and somebody pulls out a guitar and then somebody else pulls out another instrument, and everybody just gels together and starts playing, and that's when the
Yeah.
magic shows up.
Nice. Okay, so you want to tell everybody where they can locate you? We've got your Bandcamp, we've got your YouTube, and we've also got your website. You want to tell everybody about your Bandcamp and how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. Um, the main website is shenchaskene.com. It's SenchaSkene, no spaces, no underscores, .com. And that's where you'll find not only my music but also my books, and where I'm going to be if I'm going to be booking any appearances. Hopefully, now that COVID's over, we'll be able to start booking some more appearances. But anything related to what I'm up to will be on that website. And
Okay.
then the Bandcamp will have all the albums, not only the albums that I've done solo, but also the albums I've done with other bands like Tiveshire. I was in Tiveshire for a while. Uh, was in Elder Tribe, and those albums will be available there. And then we also have I'm the chief of the Black Mountain Druid Order. We have a Facebook group that is
Hmm.
the Black Mountain Druid Order Facebook group. If you just go to Facebook and Google, or well, whatever you do to Facebook, search Black Mountain Druid Order, that will show up. Now that's a private group because some people are still in the broom closet, as we say.
Right.
So you'd have to search it to find it, or you'd have to have somebody invite you, or you can just email me at shinka@shinkaskene.com, and I'll send you an invite. We also have a YouTube channel, Shinka Skene on YouTube, and again, that spelling is Sencha. So you can look for it there as well, and that's music videos. I also have every Thursday there's a tutorial on Druidry from the Black Mountain Druid Order that's published every Thursday, and then every
Mm.
Friday our adventures out and about on hiking trails in the Pacific Northwest. And then
Mm.
from time to time, other things like if I have a topic that I'm interested in, I might post a video about that. Or when a music video is released, then that'll be posted on that website. So that's the YouTube channel.
Excellent.
And I think that's pretty much all of it.
Well, definitely want to thank you for taking time out to sit down and join us this afternoon. This has been a pleasure to get to know you, get to know your music, and we'll definitely be staying in touch.
Yeah, great. And I appreciate
Absolutely.
you guys having me on the show. And thanks to all the folks in chat that are commenting and everything. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Christy, you want to tell us all about Metaphysical Times?
Metaphysical Times is a new age newspaper, the only print newspaper in circulation in 2022. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. But most easily, you can get in touch with us on the Facebook Metaphysical Times page. We're looking for writers. We're looking for. I just took over ownership of it, so yay! There's excitement and a lot that I have to get done. So, yeah, come check us out. Become a distributor. Become a writer. Place an ad with us.
And as always, if you have questions for us here at Iowa Pagan News, you can contact us via email at either Earl at iapnradio.net or Iowa Pagan News at Gmail. I check both of those on a regular basis, so be sure to get in touch with us. If you have questions later on, you can also view all of our videos on our YouTube channel uh, for IAPN Radio. So just take a look at the YouTube page for that, and you'll be able to see all brand new content fresh every week. With that being said, I want to say pleasant journeys, everyone. Have a great week. The temps are supposed to be mild up here in the Midwest. Hopefully, it's going to be nice everywhere else. So now's the time to start getting out. Pleasant journeys, everyone. We will see you again tomorrow with Oberon Zell. So be sure
Bye,
to tune
everybody.
in for that one. Thank you very much. And we are going to be out of here for the day.